Hey, we are two Star Wars nerds, and we're back with another Star Wars Wisdom Talk. And today we're talking about a quote that's not actually one of the opening cards from the Clone Wars. It actually came from an episode that we didn't particularly like that much. We didn't dislike it, but it was okay. But this one comes from Lightsaber Lost. And if you haven't seen our video on that, we talk about how we actually like the deeper meanings in this episode. And there's this quote from Tera Sinube that says, "The value of moving slowly is that one can always clearly see the way ahead." The value of moving slowly is that one can always clearly see the way ahead. We thought that was a really interesting quote, a very unique perspective, not only in context of this episode, but in context of our lives. So why don't you start us out with your thoughts, and then I can wrap it up after.
What was really cool about this episode is just the whole time he's trying to Tera Sinube.
I think so.
He's trying to teach Ahsoka a very important and powerful lesson, really, if you can get it, and that's patience and slowing down. And so when he says this, he's putting really purpose behind it. We don't just slow down because we're lazy. We don't just slow down because you have nothing better to do. It's because there's value in moving slowly, because when we move fast, we tend to miss things, or we don't look at the answer right in front of us, or we're just missing out on beautiful details around us. We're missing out on life. We're missing out on the blessings and the gift all around us. And so sometimes, even in the middle of even in Ahsoka's situation, she has to get her lightsaber back. She doesn't want to get in trouble, but there's still things that she's missing that are actually going to speed up the process if she would slow down. And there's such a powerful lesson in that. Is sometimes we think we have to make things happen, but sometimes you just need to sit back, look at the options, look at what's in front of you, and then move based off that, and it's actually going to move you quicker rather than moving quickly without thinking, and then it's not the right way or it's not the right decision. You have to backtrack, and you just keep doing that. You're going to be in this endless loop of rushing to get things done and never get anything done. And so there's beauty in slowing down, because then usually when you slow down, you only have to do things once, but when you do it quickly, you have to keep trying, keep doing the thing to accomplish it. So there's a lot of truth and a lot of power in that, and in the value of slowing down. And I think it's something that I personally am trying to press into in this season of my life, and I think a lot of us should. I think overall we all seem to want to rush to get things done, but instead of rushing, look at what's in front of us, look at the beauty around us, look at the blessing in the situation, and see how you can learn from it instead of just getting past it. Because there's always something that you can learn or begin to see clearly when you slow down that you would miss if you were rushing.
Yeah, absolutely. And, even just thinking about how we perceive time is very interesting, because we understand, like, when you're having fun and when things are exciting, time just flies by. It's typically in the mundane where you're like, oh my gosh, like, it's only been 15 minutes. I can't believe it's happening. But I think in the same way, and I love somebody that said this, that busyness is artificial significance. And when we create busyness in our lives, we're trying to say, I have significance because I'm always doing something.
Right.
When it's like, in all reality, just the fact that your calendar's full doesn't mean that it's a significant impact on your life or on others.
Right.
And that's not meant to make anybody feel bad about themselves. But I think there's something about, slowing down and looking at, like, what do I need in my life and what don't I need? And you'll probably be surprised where it's like, I spend an enormous amount of time in this area of my life where I could be spending it somewhere else.
Right.
Or I've actually been neglecting these relationships. Or I'm just not looking ahead to the future, really. And that's what's hard. This quote stood out to me in particular because I feel like I've had some breakthrough in this. What I would usually do in my life, especially in my teenage years and early 20s, I would overanalyze every decision I would make. And so if whatever decision I had to make, right, if we're going to get a new apartment, I would do ridiculous amounts of research, and I would look at all the options, and I'm like, if I move here, what happens, right? What are all the possible outcomes? If I move here, so on. And what would end up happening is something called paralysis by analysis, as, one of my mentors so lovingly put it, that basically in my analysis, I paralyzed myself. Mm-hmm. So then what ended up happening is I went to the other swing of the pendulum. I'm like, I'm just going to do things. Like, I'm going to think about it and do it, right? And I had to find this balance where it's like I can analyze and move slowly, but also be decisive and make decisions. And what I found is when I didn't just rush the hill, when I was like, okay, I see where I want to go, or I feel like I'm being led this way, and like, how can I look and be a little bit tactful about how I move and how I proceed? Mm-hmm. It made things a lot easier, because there is like clear cause and effect in our lives where it's like, if we do this, something will happen. Yep. But there's also an unknown variable. So you can't plan for everything, right? But you can look forward and be like, okay, if you're like, hey, my rent is X amount of dollars a month, and I just went out and bought like 15 video games, right? If you did that on impulsivity and inattention to detail, all of a sudden you're like, oh, I can't pay my bill or whatever, right? And so it's like and maybe that's just a small aspect of it, but there's something, about slowing down and looking ahead. Mm-hmm. And even a final thought I have is my 20s are officially behind me.
Now you can say in my 20s.
In my 20s, as of a few weeks ago. No, but we know a lot of people around our age and younger, and I meet a lot of people in their 20s who are like, yeah, my life is over, and like I've screwed it all up and there's no hope for me. And it's like, man, you have the wrong mindset, because essentially you think you're at the end of your life when really you're like in the first quarter of your life, or you just got out of the first quarter. And I think there's something to enjoying your youth, your 20s, but then also moving slowly, and where it's like you don't need to have everything accomplished at this point in your life. Right. Like you're building something. Do you want to build fast and quick and hope that a big gust of wind doesn't come and knock it over? Or do you want to build slow and with purpose, make sure the foundation's good, that the structure's good? Because you need sustainable growth as well, and you need strength in that. Right. And hopefully these kind of abstract notions we have help you be like, yeah, that thing in my life, I want to build this slowly. Because I know for me and for you as well, things that we do now, we don't just want it to be a flash in the pan, and like 5 years from now we're like, oh yeah, that one thing we did, that was cool, it got exciting for a few months, and then we want to do things where it's like years or decades later we're like, yeah, we spent time perfecting our craft and doing this and whatever, and enjoying it as well. So do you have any closing thoughts of your own?
No, I think that's really good. I think you summed it up, and I feel like I got everything I needed to say up front.
And hopefully you've learned this from the wisdom talks. I will belabor a point to death sometimes, and the missus will be like, boom.
This is how it is.
Pinpoint accurate. Got it out of my system. It's done. But yeah, let us know what you think about this quote. It's a little bit of a different one. But maybe even let us know, are you one that moves fast, or are you one that moves slow? And what do you see value in moving slowly, or how do you see value in moving slowly rather? But if you're not already, hop into our Discord. There's a lot of really awesome, really nerdy people there. And with that, we are two Star Wars nerds, and may the Force be with you always.